Namaste. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This is our fourth class of our International Women's Day campaign, very special wisdom relay. And I'm very honored to teach Ayurveda for women today. Very, very honored. Before I pass it to Leilani, I would like to introduce her a little bit, her background. Leilani is a NAMA certified Ayurvedic practitioner who brings both personal experience and extensive clinical training to her work in holistic healing. Her path into Ayurveda began with her own search as professional ballerina, where the demands of discipline and perfection left her struggling with chronic stress, anxiety, and digestive imbalances. Discovering Ayurveda transformed her health and relationship with her body, inspiring her to dedicate her life to guiding others on their healing journeys. Leilani received her Kerala Ayurveda Academy under the guidance of Dr. Jayarajan. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom about Ayurveda and supporting Yoga Gives Back through this campaign and empowering more women and children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kayoko. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here for this very special International Women's Day Relay. As Kayoko so kindly introduced me, my name is Leilani. I'm the founder of Lani Ayurveda. And before we dive into our topic today, I just want to take a moment to express my deep gratitude to Kayoko and to all of the speakers that are here this weekend, doing all the classes, and to also to all of you here attending and for being such a huge part of this movement at Yoga Gives Back. And the work that this nonprofit is doing to empower women and girls in India, which is the motherland of the practices that we benefit from, is profoundly changing lives. So thank you all so much. And when I was invited to participate in this year's International Women's Day Relay, it felt like a immediate alignment in my values and in my mission, because I believe that in order for there to be true well-being in ourselves, it has to be collective well-being. Especially as women, we cannot step into our own power without also lifting the women around us. So we're going to talk today about how to nurture our bodies through life's biggest transitions, and I'll kind of go through what we're going to talk about. But I feel it's very special to know that we're not only helping ourselves right now, but we're also simultaneously supporting the education, the independence, and the empowerment of our sisters in India. So that's very, very special. And thank you so much, Kayoko, for that. So let me share my screen and then we can start. Just give me one moment. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so today we're going to explore Ayurveda for women's health. And we're specifically going to focus on how we can navigate the physical and the energetic transitions from our menstruating years all the way through, perimenopause and menopause. And we only have an hour together, so it'll be more of an overview and some things and tools that you can take with you from today. So we won't really be going too deep into any of these topics, but I thought it would be nice to have an introduction and to really understand these four pivotal stages of a woman's life and why they are so important. So to anchor this, I want to draw your attention to the three figures here on the screen. So these are principal goddesses from the Hindu traditions. And in the Ayurvedic and Vedic traditions, these goddesses represent archetypes that really map out a woman's biological and psychological life cycle. So on the left here we have Lakshmi, right, with the beautiful lotus. And Lakshmi represents the years of fertility. She represents abundance, beauty, nourishment, vitality. And this really represents the time of our lives when our bodies are focused on building and sustaining and on fertility, right? It's our fertile years. In the center here, we have Durga, and Durga is represented as this warrior, a warrior goddess. And she really represents the kind of mid stage of life into perimenopause, in that mid stage of life. And this is a time that requires immense internal strength, the ability to set boundaries, especially as hormones begin to shift, and the body requires a different kind of fire to sustain us. And then finally, on the right side here, we have Kali, and Kali represents the later stage of life, specifically as moving past or through menopause. And right here, she looks very fierce. You know, she has this kind of fierce appearance. She's standing over Shiva, and this fierceness represents the ultimate transformation and the ultimate release. So think of her as the wise woman. She's the wise woman. And this is a phase where we're no longer losing energy to the reproductive cycle. And it's a redirection of our vitality, our energy inward. So it's a redirection of our vitality inwards towards the ultimate purpose and the ultimate clarity. Okay, so this is just, I wanted to give you a little bit of a preview and overview of these goddesses that inspire us through this journey. Okay, so today we're going to talk about how to physically and mentally support the body through these very vital changes. Okay, so we'll be going through kind of four main topics today. So we'll be discussing what is Ayurveda. So for those of you who have never heard about Ayurveda, it's your first time hearing about it, not to worry at all. We're going to discuss a little bit about what it is and the philosophy behind it. Then we'll talk about the female archetype. And then the main part of today's talk will be going through the four pivotal seasons of a woman's life. Okay. And lastly, we'll touch on the principles for lifelong health. So regardless of where you are, what stage of your life you're in, these are principles that you can follow to help support your health and your longevity. And I'll be going through all of the slides, and I'll leave a little bit of time at the end for questions. So if you do have any questions about anything, please feel free to write it down, to drop it in the chat box, and then I'll get to it at the end. Okay, so we always begin our practice with the Mangala Charnam. So the Mangala Charnam is the very first verse of the Ashtanga Hridayam, which is one of the main root textbooks of Ayurveda. And it's in invocation. It's an invocation that is chanted before any practice or learning of Ayurveda. Okay, so we're here together as a learning of Ayurveda. So we'll start by invoking the divine healer. So this is a very beautiful shloka because it's able to summarize all of Ayurveda into 2 lines. It is so profound that it can summarize all of Ayurveda into 2 lines. So Mangala means auspicious, and Charana means verse or shloka. Okay? And you see in the first line, Ragadi Rogan. This refers to the diseases and the sufferings that originate from the mental states of raga. What is raga? Raga is attachment and desire. Okay, raga is attachment or desire. So Ragadi Rogan refers to the diseases and the sufferings that originate from the mental states of attachment, desire, raga, dvesha, which is aversion, moha, which is delusion or confusion, as well as other negative emotions. So these mental activities, mental factors, create a chain of mental and physical disorders, which leads to really any diseases according to Ayurveda. This is the root cause of all diseases according to Ayurveda. And you can experience this as anxiety, as a general physical imbalance of the body and the mind. So this very first verse of the Ashtanga Hridayam, this right here, the Mangala Charanam, it's an invocation to a physician who has overcome these ragadi, these afflictions, in order to heal the world from such sufferings. So we chant this Mangala Charanam together to invoke that consciousness of this divine healer, of this physician who's overcome these ragadis in order to heal the world. So we're bringing that consciousness into our own minds so that we can open our hearts and open our minds and share this wisdom with the world. Okay. So if you know it, please follow along, and you're welcome to read the transliteration and follow along with me. But we'll start with a tall seat, nice tall spine. You can close your eyes and bring the palms together to touch. And just listen to your breath, bringing all of your attention inwardly. Breathing in. Ragadirogan satatanushaktan asheshakaya prasartanasheshan autsukya moharetitan jagana yo apurvaidyaya namostu tasmai Shri Guru Pyu Namaha Avik Namastu. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we have one more mantra to open this out, and then we'll get right into everything. Okay, second, we're going to chant the Guru Mantra. So the Guru Mantra is a way for us to honor our teachers, to honor the lineage of this practice, to awaken our inner wisdom, and to dispel ignorance. So it is the Guru Mantra is taught to purify the mind and to reduce the ego and to foster a sense of gratitude. Okay? So the word Gu means darkness and Ru means remover. So it refers to the enlightenment principle, the principle of enlightenment that helps us realize our true selves. Okay? So it helps us realize our true selves by removing ignorance. So we chant Guru Brahma. Brahma is the consciousness of creation. So we recognize the potential for enlightenment in our own births, in our parents, and in our origins. Okay? We chant Guru Vishnu. Okay? Vishnu is the consciousness of preservation, the energy of preservation. So sing our current life circumstances. Maybe that's the job that you're currently having, your friends, your daily interactions, seeing your current life as the path to spiritual growth. There's no other path. Your path that you have is the path to spiritual growth. And then Maheshwara is the same word for Shiva. Okay. Transformation. So viewing difficult challenges, maybe that's illness you're going through, some physical imbalance, other calamities that you have in your life, seeing all these challenges in your life as opportunities to destroy ignorance. And all of this, humbling ourselves to the divine, to the spiritual path, and to all of the teachers that came before us, and honoring this lineage and where it came from. Okay? So again, you can close your eyes. If you know it, please follow along when palms come together. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmahi Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And when you're ready, open the eyes. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Okay, what is Ayurveda? So now that we've grounded ourselves and have established kind of what we're going to be talking about today, let's talk about the baseline of what we're discussing. What is Ayurveda? So the word itself comes from two Sanskrit roots, ayus, which means life. It also means longevity. And then we have the word Veda. Veda means science or knowledge, or sometimes it's translated as wisdom. So quite literally, it translates to the science of life or the wisdom of life or the knowledge of life. So it's not just a medical science, it's also a comprehensive, holistic system for living, And it's been practiced and refined for thousands and thousands of years. It's been written down for about 5,000 years, give or take, but it's been passed down orally for many, many generations prior to that. So we don't actually know how old it is, but we can guess that it is older than 5,000 years old, which is pretty incredible to see a system be passed down for so many generations. So one of the most profound differences between Ayurveda and our modern medical system is that Ayurveda is inherently personalized. It's a contextual science. So the medicine that we use today is incredible. It works very well for acute care, and it treats symptoms very well, and it treats emergencies very well. But Ayurveda, on the other hand, looks at the entire ecosystem of an individual. So it looks at an individual's body, it looks at an individual's mind, as well as the spiritual path of an individual. And it operates on this fundamental understanding that no two people are exactly alike, meaning there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all approach to the foods that you're eating, the exercises that you're doing, or any health practice that you're adopting. A one-size-fits-all approach simply will not work with Ayurveda. So to understand every individual and every individual's unique makeup, Ayurveda recognizes our biological and physiological functions into these three primary operating systems known as the doshas. So first we have Vata. Vata dosha is made up of the elements of space and air. Okay? And this governs movement. So you can think of Vata as governing all of the movements in your nervous system. It governs your circulation and any impulses that happen in the body, blinking, heartbeat, speech, sound. Think of Vata as the force behind all the movement in the universe. And it's the force that we cannot see, but we know exists, right? It's the force we cannot see, but we know exists. You can hear me talking, but you cannot see the sound waves coming through, okay? That is the quality of Vata coming through. So next we have Pitta. Pitta governs transformation. It's made up of the fire and a little bit of water element. And this is really your metabolic system. So Pitta controls your digestion, your hormone production, and how your body processes and assimilates both nutrients from your foods that you're eating, but also from experiences, from information that you're taking in. Reading a book, learning something new. Pitta is responsible for that transformation so that you can intellectually understand it. And then lastly, we have Kapha. Sometimes you'll see it spelled Kapha. They're both correct. And this governs structure and stability. So this relates to your bodily tissues, anything that's gross in the body, okay? The bodily tissues, your bone density, your muscle mass, any lubrication that you have in the body. This is all Kapha's responsibility. So every single one of us has a very and completely unique combination of these three forces. So in Ayurveda, health is not just the absence of disease, it's also the dynamic, continuous process of keeping your unique constitution in balance. So it's dynamic. It's dynamic. So every day it requires us to participate in our health, to pay attention and to participate every single day. So today, as we talk about the transitions of womanhood from the menstruating years all the way through menopause, what we're really going to be focusing on is how these doshas naturally shift over time. And also how we can use very practical tools like the kinds of foods that you're eating, your diet, your daily routines, and very specific herbs to navigate these shifts with a little bit more grace. Okay, so before we move into all of the stages of a woman's life, I wanted to briefly touch on the lineage of this medicine because the context is very important here. So, in according to Ayurveda, this science is not of human origin. And this can sound a little bit mystical at first. When I first read it, I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean? But what this really means is that Ayurveda was not invented. It was not invented by a single person. It was not a group of people who sat together and thought about the science. It was not tested in a lab. It was not discussed and theorized by different people with different theories. That's not at all how it happened. It was actually recognized and it was realized thousands of years ago by these early scholars and sages and physicians who devoted their entire lives to meditating and to realizing this science that was given to them by the divine. And by the divine, that could be Brahma, it could be the universe, but it was given to them from a place beyond their intellectual mind. Okay, so it's given from a place beyond the intellectual mind. So what they realized is that human beings are in fact not separate from nature. This was the realization they had. This is the basis of the Samkhya philosophy, that human beings are not separate from nature, but in fact, we're a direct reflection of it. So you can think of your own bodies as a microcosm. It's a microcosm. And you can think of the world as the macrocosm. And they're really mirrors of one another. They're the same thing happening. So at its core, Ayurveda is an observation of natural law. That's all that it is. It's an observation of natural law. It's as simple as that. Nothing too complex, nothing too fancy. Okay. So this system has been practiced and refined again for over 5,000 years in India. And the foundational text mentioned here on the slide is the Charaka Samhita, the Sushruta Samhita, and Ashtanga Hridayam. And like I said before, these are not just philosophical type of texts. They're very comprehensive medical, clinical, and even surgical manuals. And they really articulate a very profound and a very proactive approach to health. So they focus heavily on preventing diseases. There is a lot of disease management in these books, but they heavily, heavily focus on prevention of diseases as well as rejuvenation. So, how do we maintain our health and how do we prevent disease? How do we create a life that is healthy and that is long and that is joyful? And what is most beautiful and applicable to us today is how practical these texts are. So you don't need to go and buy these books and read them. We'll go through a little bit of what we'll cover today. But they're very, very, very practical. They're so practical. They talk about everything from the qualities of the foods that we consume and the structures of our daily routines, and things that are very much in the physical world that we can take charge of right after this Zoom call as well. So, so we're going to explore how applying these time-tested principles of aligning, with nature's rhythm can help us sustain our balance and to prevent disease in the future. Okay, so I'll briefly go over the doshas here. So building kind of on the last slide that we had about the doshas, we have vata, pitta, and kapha. We want to see what they're actually made from, okay, what they're actually made from, and how they function within the body. So Ayurveda teaches that everything in nature, including our human bodies, are constructed from 5 fundamental elements. So we have ether, which is the same as space. We have air, fire, water, and earth. So rather than thinking of these as purely mystical concepts, it's helpful to think of them as basic states of matter and energy. So we have space, we have gas, we have radiant energy, which is the fire, we have liquid, and we have solid. So think of them as these concepts, okay? So these 5 elements pair up to form the 3 doshas, which act as the primary biological managers of your body. So first on the left, we have vata, which is again the combination of air and ether. And vata is a catabolic energy. So catabolism is the process of breaking things down and creating movement. So physiologically, vata governs your nervous system, just as mentioned before. Okay, so this is the involuntary movements of your muscles. This is your breathing. This is the circulation of your blood. And if any of you have heard of the word prana, right? Prana and excuse me, I meant vayu. If you ever heard of the word vayu, maybe you're yoga practitioners and you've heard of the word vayu. Vayu and vata are synonymous. They're synonymous, they're the same thing. So vata is vayu. Okay, it's vayu. So again, it governs the circulation of your blood. The qualities of vata are light, dry, and mobile, and as well as cold. So here in the center, we have pitta. Pitta, again, the combination of fire and a little bit of water. Pitta is your metabolic energy, and it's responsible for all the transformations that happen in your body. Okay? So this is your digestive fire. This is your cellular metabolism. This is your ability to process nutrients and also to produce hormone. This is the production of hormones. Pitta creates all chemical transformations that happen in your body. Every single chemical transformation that happens in your body, and there's a lot of them, Pitta is responsible. Qualities of Pitta are hot, sharp, and oily. Okay? And then finally, on the right, we have Kapha dosha. Kapha is a combination of water and earth. This is your anabolic energy. So it is the exact opposite of Vata dosha, the exact opposite. So this is the biological force of building, of nourishment, and of growing and sustaining. So kapha governs your physical structure, your bone density, your muscle tissue, your bodily fluids, lubrication of your joints, The qualities of kapha naturally are heavy, they're stable, and they're grounding. Okay. So why does this matter? Why does this matter? Why does knowing our doshas or what the doshas are matter? Okay. As we go through the different stages of womanhood, there's going to be a dominant dosha that naturally drives change. So the early reproductive years are heavily supported by the building anabolic nature of kapha. Okay? When we move into our middle stage of life, it's a highly metabolic time governed by pitta. Okay, there's a lot of heat, there's a lot of transformation. It's when we build families, when we focus on our careers. All this stuff is a lot of outward moving transformation. And then as we transition into menopause, this brings us into what we call the vata stage of life, where we naturally experience a shift towards that catabolic or destructive energy, which is often why women will experience dry skin, lighter sleep, or there's going to be less bone density. So as vata increases, bone density decreases. They have an inverse relationship. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of an outline of how we're approaching this. Okay. So I'm going to skip this over because we don't have that much time. We can come back to it. Okay, so now that we have an understanding of the doshas, I want to bring all of this foundational knowledge into our focus today, which is the woman, the female, the woman archetype for International Women's Day. And in Ayurveda, the woman is highly revered. And the text on the slide describes the woman as a vessel of creation and a dynamic force of nurturing and transformation. And what I want to emphasize here on this slide is whether or not a woman ever has children, she still carries this potential of creation. Okay, this potential of creation. Creation does not have to be children. Okay, creation does not have to be children. That is one form of the potential creation that a woman carries. Okay, so this potential creation, this potential energy is what we call Shakti. So you may have heard of the term Shakti. Shakti simply refers to nature. Shakti is nature. Nature is creation. Okay, nature is creation. So it is taught that uh, the woman, the woman is the representative of the nature. Like all women are representatives of this cosmic nature, which is so, so beautiful. So every woman has this potential for change, for creation, um, for cycling. Okay, women go through cycles, and while some women might see that as a nuisance, it's actually one of the most beautiful parts of being a woman, and it gives us the opportunity to transform and to heal and to nurture. And again, we'll go a little bit more into that as well. So the modern world, I don't know if anyone might disagree with me, but the modern world operates on a very linear 24-hour cycle. Okay, we operate on a 24-hour cycle, and that's just how it is. That's just how it is now. Okay, so we work on a 24-hour cycle. Unfortunately, for women, we do not operate on a 24-hour cycle. So there can be some friction there. There can be some friction. Women operate in a very cyclical way. Okay, women are cyclical, just like nature is. Okay, we have the sun rising and the sun setting. We have our lunar cycles. We have our monthly cycles. We have our daily cycles. Everything in nature is operating on a cycle. The seasons operate on a cycle. The foods that we eat every single day operate on cycles. They only grow on certain seasons, hopefully, and they're harvested and we consume them. And that's their cycle. That's their life cycle. Okay. So for women's health, it's very, very important to honor these cycles. So when there is that disconnect from the cycle, when there's a disconnect from the cycle, this is where friction begins, and this is where disease begins. So Ayurveda teaches that every single stage of womanhood has a very specific biological purpose and is deeply worthy of respect. So by honoring our bodies, in the stage that we're in, that's how we can find more harmony and more health and to prevent disease in the future. So let's look at a little bit more of what that looks like practically here. Okay, so we have the 4 pivotal seasons of a woman's life. So in Ayurveda, we focus heavily on these 4 major physiological phases, okay? They really are the most pivotal ones. So we have menstruation. This starts at your first menses, and then pregnancy. Then we have postpartum, and then menopause, okay? So the most important takeaway I want you to see from this slide is just the arrows connecting them, okay? I'm not a great designer, but I did my best to have like a little connection of all of them together. So in modern day life, these phases are often treated as these kind of isolated events that happen in your life. Like, oh, you have a menstrual issue. Okay, that happens in isolation. Oh, you have pregnancy. We're going to manage this in isolation. Oh, you're going through, menopause. This is going to be treated isolated. Okay. So you might see a specialist for kind of different issues or ailments that you might be seeing with around these areas. Okay. But from an Ayurvedic perspective, this is actually one continuous interconnected timeline. It's one continuous timeline for a woman. So how we care for our bodies and our stress levels and our digestion during our menstruating years directly impacts our fertility. And also our experience of pregnancy, whether it's going to be an easy pregnancy or a difficult pregnancy. Okay? How we rest and recover and nourish ourselves during the postpartum period, which is a very, very vulnerable Vata dominant time of structural and energetic depletion. So that postpartum time dictates how smooth our transition into menopause will be decades later. Okay, so they all influence one another here. Okay, so menstruation is kind of our baseline rhythm. Okay, it's the monthly cycle of building and releasing. And in Ayurveda, a healthy menstrual cycle is considered a vital sign. If the menstrual cycle is not easy and seamless, then that means there is some underlying imbalance. Okay, so it's kind of like a monthly report card of how your health is doing. Okay? It's like a monthly report card. You menstruate and you go, that was difficult. What can I change? What did I do that was not supporting me in my health? Okay. And then pregnancy is a very anabolic and kapha dominant phase. Okay, so this is when the body's resources are entirely focused on building and sustaining new tissue. You're literally creating a new life. There's nothing more profound and also incredible. Nothing more incredible than that. Postpartum is a sudden and a massive shift. Okay, so there is a very sudden physical loss of, fluids that happen of tissue, and there's the emptying of the womb. Okay, the sudden emptying of the womb creates a very, very sudden spike in Vata dosha. Okay, so anytime there is an empty space, whether it's in your body, there's a cavity in your body, or in the world, Vata fills it. Vata fills it. Okay. So this is why resting, getting proper nourishment, Proper warm and easily digestible foods during the postpartum time is very, very critical to prevent long-term health issues as well. And then finally, we have menopause. This is not a sudden cliff. It's actually, a natural culmination of this biological journey. And this is when we transition fully out of the reproductive phase, and we're no longer expending a massive amount of physical energy each month. Okay, so it's designed to be a time where our vitality is conserved. Our vitality is conserved, and our energy is redirected inwards. Okay, so our energy, which was once upon a time outwards, it was taking care of other people, nurturing other people, doing for other people. The shift to menopause is a redirection of the energy inwards. And this is really to bring us into a state of mental clarity, maybe clarity on how we want to continue living our lives, maybe clarity onto what things aren't working and what things are working in our lives, and also into these wisdom years. So I touched on that a little bit in the beginning, but these wisdom years, it's a transition from action, from doing, to wisdom, to inner wisdom. So the Ayurvedic approach is to never wait for a crisis. Okay? We don't want to wait for a crisis in any one of these phases to start paying attention. You might think, I don't have any issues. I don't need to care about my health. But instead, Ayurveda says, no, you don't have any issues. So you are so blessed. You should take extra care of your health. You should take extra care of your health. Okay. So we're going to go into each one of these in a little bit more detail and talk about what are some, do's and don'ts, what are some common ailments, and what are some common herbs that you can also use for this. Okay. All right. So now we're going to dive into these specific phases. So we'll start with menstruation, and I wrote PMS because PMS is very, 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 very common. Most women I talk to experience some form of PMS. Okay. All right, so we have first in the top left corner, we have common ailments on the left side of the slide. So dysmenorrhea, which is painful periods, endometriosis, mood swings, fatigue, breast tenderness. These are all very, very common things that women experience during their bleeding time, during their menses. So I'm willing to bet that almost everyone in this Zoom call, I can't see how many people are here, has experienced one of these, if not several of these, at one point in their life, right? At one point in their life. Okay. So what I've noticed is that our modern culture has largely normalized these symptoms. So many women are taught that going through this extreme discomfort and feeling exhausted and having extreme mood swings is just a very normal part of life that you just have to tolerate forever. And it's just how it is. Okay, it's just how it is. But from an Ayurvedic perspective, because something is common, it does not mean that it's normal. It does not mean that it's normal. So Ayurveda views a healthy menstrual cycle as a seamless and a pain-free process. So it should be seamless and pain-free. Okay. It's normal to feel tired. It's normal for the energy to change. Okay? It's normal for your needs to change, but it's not normal for there to be severe pain and discomfort that disrupts you from just doing, common tasks that you want to be doing that day. So when you're experiencing things like cramping or you're having a lot of clotting or a lot of mood swings, it's basically the body giving you like a little alert popping up, going, something is not working. I need your attention, please. That's all the body is saying. I need your attention, please. Okay, so to understand how to treat this, we have to understand what the body is trying to do during a bleed. Okay, so during menstruation, your body's energy is moving downwards and outwards to clear the uterine lining. So in Ayurveda, this specific downward moving energy is called apana vayu. Apana vayu, which means downward moving wind or downward moving energy. And our primary goal during the cycle is to support this downward moving energy, not to block it. So this is why if you look at the don'ts list on the top right, you'll see kind of all the things that disrupt that downward moving flow. All the things here on the don'ts list are disrupting that downward moving flow. So, for example, when it says up here not to use tampons, it's because they physically block and absorb that downward clearing process, which can lead to stagnation and also can create more cramping. Same with cold food, frozen food. Anything cold and frozen physically constricts your blood vessels, right? Cold constricts and heat dilates. So we want everything to dilate, especially during this time. Okay, so when we have a lot of cold foods, there's more constriction of the uterus and there's more cramping as the uterus has to work harder to push the lining out. Okay. Same with excessive exercise and heavy socializing, as that energy, that outward moving energy, can easily deplete you. So looking at the do's on the bottom left corner, we want to focus on deep nourishment and a lot of warmth in this time. Okay. So I listed here milk decoction with shatavari at night. Shatavari is excellent herb. You can find it on, some good websites like Banyan Botanicals and things like that. You can use a little bit in some milk. If you don't take dairy milk, you can do also a vegan milk as well. That's no problem as well. Another practice that is very, very helpful if you are experiencing cramping or anemia is eating daily soaked black raisins the week leading up to your period. Black raisins have a lot of iron in them, and they also are a natural laxative. So they do help with that downward moving energy, especially the week before your cycle. Okay. I also added magnesium glycate and vitamin B6. This is not inherently Ayurvedic, but I've seen a lot of success with this. So this is something to consider here. Okay, some common medicines on the bottom right. We have Ashoka bark. Okay, Ashoka, which is a powerful uterine tonic, as well as some, simple kitchen staples like cumin tea. Okay, cumin tea is the best tea you can have if you're having menstrual cramping, any pain, any dizziness. Just boiling about a tablespoon of that in 1 to 2 cups of water and drinking that, it'll reduce any cramping, any pain that you're having as well. Okay. I gotta watch my time. All right, so stepping into the phase of pregnancy. So I only listed 3 things here for pregnancy. There are many, many unpleasant symptoms that women experience during pregnancy. Okay, there's many I could list here, but I only listed 3 because these are the most common ones. Okay, these are the most common ones. So Ayurveda views pregnancy as a anabolic, kapha dominant time. So your body is performing the ultimate feat of building and sustaining a new life, which requires a lot of energetic resources, right? So nausea is very common in the first trimester. Cravings, I would say 50-50, depending on the woman. Low back pain, especially going into the last trimester. Okay. So something I wanted to touch on here is cravings. Okay. Ayurveda specifically says that whatever a woman craves, as long as it does not harm her or her baby, should be taken always. So anything a woman craves during her pregnancy, she should be taking, and she should not be suppressing these cravings. Okay, so anything you should be wanting, you should be having, so long as it's not harming you and your baby. Okay, so there should be no restrictions during pregnancy. Okay. So this is, important because it's taught that it is the communication of the baby and the baby asking for what it needs. All right, so coming to our do's we have here. So eat what you are craving. Eat what you're craving unless it's actively harmful for you. Ayurveda also prescribes very specific dietary shifts as the pregnancy progresses. Okay? So from months 1 to 3, it's important to focus on stabilizing the pregnancy and building a pure nutrient fluid, or what we call rasa for both yourself and for the baby. So this is why we lean heavily into these very nourishing, kind of heavy foods like warm milk or ghee or even rice porridge. Okay. From months 4 to 6, it's taught that uh, the baby's physical tissues are rapidly developing. So we continue with these kind of sustaining foods like yogurt, which is a little bit more heating, some milk, and also some butter to support the structural growth of the baby. And then months 7 to 9, as the baby grows, there is physically less room in the mother's digestive tract. So she might become less hungry and her digestion might slow down. So in this stage, we shift to smaller, more easily digestible meals. Okay, so this will be like a rice porridge and smaller portions. All right. So you'll see also on the don'ts list, so pungent foods, excessive exercise, harsh or violent activities, red garments. Red garments is something that was taught thousands of years ago as the energy of red. The energy of red can be too heating for a mom. Okay, so you can take it or you can leave it. This is what the root textbooks are teaching. As well as some other very, very heating foods like sesame, papaya, pineapple, or kiwi, especially in the first trimester. You can reintroduce those in the last trimester here. And then it's best to not introduce any new herbs during pregnancy. Okay, it's important to not introduce any new herbs during pregnancy. Okay, you can consult a practitioner for some single herbs, but in general, it's best to not try anything new during pregnancy. Okay, so if you were taking something beforehand, that should be okay, but it's best to not add anything new here. Okay. All right, postpartum. Okay, so moving into what is arguably the most critical yet most neglected phases of a woman's life. So postpartum, in Ayurveda, we call it Sutika Paricharya. And I included the quote at the top of the slide because it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, and it illustrates how much a mother gives of herself, how much a mother gives of herself. But also, practically speaking, you cannot nurture the universe, you cannot nurture the world from an empty vessel. And Ayurveda recognizes that, okay? So the physiological shift of birth is viewed as the most massive systemic shock to the body. So there's a sudden, departure of the baby, the placenta, the amniotic fluids, and the body is left with a sudden massive void. There's a massive void in the body. And like I mentioned before, this creates a profound spike in Vata dosha, the energy of air and space and movement. And this energy is highly unstable. It's a very unstable energy. Okay? Now, while there's this massive imbalance of Vata, the physical exhaustion and labor of taking care of a newborn baby causes the mother's digestion, her metabolic fire, to completely crash, Okay, so when we look at common ailments, you'll see bloating, severe gas, a lot of fatigue, mood swings, poor digestion. Okay, and all of these things lead to issues like postpartum depression, which again are heavily kind of ignored or disregarded in our society. Okay, so these are all symptoms of a highly aggravated vata and severely weakened metabolism. Okay, so the most important time postpartum is the first 42 days. The first 42 days are the most critical days postpartum, and they really define your next 42 years. Those first 42 days postpartum define the next 42 years. Okay? So the most important things to focus on is regulating the nervous system, rekindling the digestion, and rebuilding depleted tissues. Okay, rebuilding depleted tissues. Okay. So if we look at the do's here, we have belly binding. If you've never heard of belly binding, it's the use of a cotton cloth to wrap around the abdomen in a certain way to help hold the organs together. Okay, so all the organs around the belly kind of move out of place during pregnancy. And then postpartum, they need that support to come back into place. So it's not like a corset or anything very tight, but it's a gentle hug of this cotton cloth that supports the structure and the integrity of all the organ systems there as well. Okay, resting, of course, as much as possible. So asking for help, getting support. Another very crucial one is Abhyanga. Abhyanga is a warm oil massage, and this is really non-negotiable. Okay, it's non-negotiable for the nourishment of the mother. So it directly pacifies vata. So by applying warm oil on the skin every single day, you actually pacify vata and you help all the tissues re-nourish. Okay, you have all the tissues re-nourish by counteracting this light, dry, and erratic energy of vata. Okay. When it comes to foods, the foods should be soupy, they should be warm, and they should be light. Okay, so like rice porridge, vegetable soups, and a lot of healthy fats should be in the diet. Okay, and then we have all of the don'ts, which are about avoiding anything that taxes the body. So you're looking at raw salads, smoothies, ice water, again, things that are cold and that are creating constriction in your blood vessels. Okay. And we also advise against too much physical exertion, again, only in those first 42 days. They're the most critical time. Okay. And then our final major physiological transition or menopause. Okay. So if you remember the image of Kali from our very first slide, this is really her domain here. This is her domain. And this is the transition from the active, outward focused reproductive years into the wisdom years, to the wisdom phase of life. So in Ayurveda, menopause marks the transition into the Vata stage of life. Okay? So if you recall, Vata is the energy of air and the energy of space. And the qualities of Vata are dry and light and erratic and mobile. So some of the common ailments are things like vaginal dryness, bone density loss, memory lapses, sleep issues, and so forth. And Ayurveda views these as a direct manifestation of excess vata. There's like a literal drying out and thinning of the physical tissues in the body, and you can experience that. You can experience that in your body. So I want to talk specifically about hot flashes and night sweats. It's a common one because this is where Ayurveda is incredibly brilliant. Okay, so when we experience a hot flash, it feels like pure heat. So we assume, oh, it's heat, it must be pitta, it must be pitta dosha. And then we take a bunch of cooling things to calm the fire. Okay? But Ayurveda teaches that these sudden temperature spikes are actually driven by vata dosha. So it's the erratic and the unstable and the moving quality of vata that is pushing your pitta out of normal range or normal resting place, which creates these sudden and very unpredictable flares of heat that you might be experiencing. So this is why if you look at the don'ts list here, the theme is avoiding things that destabilize that nervous system, things that destabilize vata dosha. Okay. We also have on the first thing of the don'ts is not to take ashwagandha right at the top. Okay. Ashwagandha has incredible benefits, but it is a highly drying and heating herb. It's drying and heating. So if your vata is already creating a lot of dryness, adding a very drying and heating herb is like throwing gasoline on a fire. It's like throwing gasoline on a fire. So I just wanted to emphasize that because it is something very common. Okay? We also want to avoid very intense cardiovascular exercise, excessive traveling, skipping meals, because all of these severely spike vata. And to make these hot flashes even more erratic. Okay. So excessive travel, excessive irregular routine, skipping meals, all create more hot flashes, more of these symptoms like vaginal dryness, sleep issues, hair loss, and so forth. Okay, so we go back to our do's. Maintain regular routine, lighten your schedule. Okay, so doing less is very, very important. And also spending time doing things that you love. Okay, so a redirection of your priorities, doing things that you love. Okay, Kayoko, I know we are out of time. I have one more slide. So if there is the time, I can go into the last slide, but if not, no worries at all.
Then go ahead.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. Okay, so we spent a lot of time today talking about these big transitions. We talked about pregnancy, menstruation, postpartum, um, and menopause. But how do we actually support our bodies on just a regular Tuesday? Okay, how do we support our bodies tomorrow, right? After this call. So this brings us to one of the most foundational and powerful concepts in Ayurveda, and it's called dinacharya. Okay, so dinacharya translates roughly to daily routine, but it's much more than just a schedule. Okay, it's much more than just a schedule that you have. It's a practice of structuring your daily life around natural circadian rhythm to proactively build vitality and stability. Okay, so it's a proactive way to build vitality and stability. Okay, so these days there's a lot of magic pills. There's a lot of magic pills um, that have a lot of promises, and I've explored these magic pills, but there's no magic pill like consistency and stability. There's nothing more profound than consistency and stability for any stage of your life. Any stage of life that you're in, no matter what health issue you might be facing, no matter if you're healthy, if you're diseased, there's nothing more profound than this dinacharya and this stability. So in Ayurveda, we're taught that our biology, our bodies crave rhythm above all else. So no matter what medicines you are taking, no matter what treatments you're doing, nothing is going to work without this as the baseline support. Okay. So if our daily habits are very erratic, this dysregulates vata. Okay, this dysregulates vata, and vata is the king of the doshas. Vata tells everyone what to do. It tells all the other doshas what to do. Vata says, oh, if I'm unhappy, I'm going to make all of you unhappy. Okay. So our one goal, especially as women, is to keep vata happy. Okay. We want to keep vata happy, keeping a regular routine and taking care of our minds and our bodies. Okay, so some of the core pillars of dinacharya is sleeping and waking at the same time and eating at the same times every day. This sounds incredibly simple, but it is very, very profound. So when your body knows exactly when it's going to receive fuel, it stops operating in a state of stress, right? It establishes trust and stability with you. You tell your body, I will give you food every day at the same time. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about anything. And your body will relax and will go, oh, I don't have to worry because you told me you're going to give me food every day and I can expect that. When food doesn't come, the body starts to panic, right? The body starts to panic. All right. When sleep doesn't come when it expects it, the body starts to panic. Okay. You might not be panicking, but the body will start to panic and it goes into a crisis mode. Okay. So next, eating wholesome, fresh, cooked meals, avoiding cold, raw, or highly processed foods. We touched on this earlier, but from an Ayurvedic perspective, digestion is, a physical fire. So you can't throw ice water on a fire, it's going to put it out. So we want to make sure we are feeding the fire, feeding our digestion in order to sustain its vibrance, to sustain this energy that we have. And cooked and warm foods are essentially pre-digested. So they lighten the load on your digestion. They require far less, metabolic energy for your body to break down and assimilate. So this is very important, especially if you are in your menopause years or if you are postpartum, especially important during that time. And then finally, I want to highlight the point about practicing gratitude and compassion. Okay. So this gives you the opportunity to kind of step back from the busyness of life and to practice gratitude and devotion in everything that you do before you're having a meal, um, before you learn. That's why we chant the mantras before we begin our practice together. Okay, so to offer gratitude, to offer devotion, and to live life with that sense of awe and that sense of love, and that already is going to put the body into a state of healing. Okay, an energy and a frequency and a state of consciousness of healing. Okay, so beyond the physical, what is your mind experiencing during these seasons of life as well? Okay, so that brings us to the end of our time together today. Thank you all so much for your presence and for allowing me to share this incredible system of medicine with you. If you'd like to dive deeper and explore how these principles apply to your own bodies, you can find my contact information here. And thank you again to Yoga Gives Back and to Kayoko for hosting this weekend in the space. Thank you so much. And I don't know if we have time, but if anyone has any questions, they can always, if we don't have time today, you can always contact me. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Leilani. It was very, very informative and educational. We really appreciate your presence and a great class. And I think every stage of life in our lives right now, we can really appreciate what you shared. Dinacharya was very good. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.